What is going on, everyone? We're back for another gathering of the FreeFolk. And this one is very focused on Indiana Jones. Yeah, so I had an opportunity to see it. Oop. And there's my computer popping. And I did, and I guess I'll do a spoiler-free part at the beginning. It was not as bad as I was expecting it to be. Sorry, let me turn myself down just a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it was still very bad. They have no respect for the character. This is Kathleen Kennedy doing... She's robbing the last grave at Lucasfilm. Like, I don't think there's any more properties that Lucasfilm has. Like, Star Wars was the biggest one. Indiana Jones is probably the second biggest. And they're the technology company. I guess that counts in there too. But, like, there's no more IPs for them to desecrate. And I mean, that's all this was another desecration. It's another... They Jacobified another character. Only instead of going to an island and wanting to die and leaving a map to go find him so he could tell you in person that he just wants to be left alone and die, he just worked in a university until he could finally die. That's how Indiana Jones ended up the most famous archaeologist, adventurer ever, in a classroom full of students that don't pay attention to him. Having the people that he loves most leave him. You know, really uplifting stuff. Yeah, I say it's not as bad as what I was expecting, but it still wasn't very good. There were a few parts that were enjoyable, but it was not worth the time or the money, and I saw it for free. It was not made by somebody that was a fan of Indiana Jones. It's somebody that, I don't know, they've probably seen the movies on TV at some point, and they got told they have to write Indiana Jones. And that's what it feels like. Someone that doesn't understand everything about it. Someone that, or anything about it, really. They just kind of, okay, yeah, he's an archaeologist. Sure. Oh, let's call him a grave robber. That sounds good. You know, the person people are going to see, call him a grave robber. Call him bad names. Oh. I mean, you can tell that this thing has been rewritten and reshot so many times over. Because they're talking about having a reported budget of like $300 million, which means it's gonna have to make almost $1 billion, something like that, to even start making a profit. And it's not looking like it will. I think it said 60 million for the weekend. And that's not how you spell Indiana Jones. There we go. Let me see. Let me see if I can find the box office for the weekend. Okay, well, this says it's rated a 3.7. That's pretty funny. Yeah, there we go. Box office. $82 million for a 5-day total. Oof. Yeah. It's not looking good for that. Well, Screen Rant says that Indiana Jones 5, their problem was they didn't consider a broader, younger, more diverse crowd. So of course, diversity is why it failed. It didn't do enough. All right, so this says 60 million opening weekend, 80 million opening 5-day week, because it's a holiday weekend. It's which is supposed to mean it makes more money, but that's not happening for you. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say without getting into spoilers. I mean, I like the opening sequence. I think I can say that without spoiling anything. It's a flashback, and it's not perfect. It has a lot of flaws in it. I will go into some of the flaws that I picked up on, and I know I've missed a lot. This is just the things that stuck with me. But yeah, I mean, I liked the opening. It was like 20 or 30 minutes. It was a very long opening, but it was the best part. It goes downhill from there. And they CGI'd Harrison Ford's face and de-aged him and put him on a younger actor. And it looks pretty good, actually. Like, it was pretty convincing. Let me think. I mean, yeah, this was just The Last Jedi of Indiana Jones. I mean, I think this is probably a little bit better than The Last Jedi. But I also like Star Wars a lot more than Indiana Jones. All right, I'm gonna go into some spoilers now. So yeah, we start off in the flashback to I don't know if it says what year it is, but it's at the end of World War II. And Hitler's wanting the they called it something different, but it's the spear of destiny. It's the spear the Romans used to stab Jesus while he was on the cross to make sure he was dead. And that's where you meet Matt Mikkelsen, who is an archaeologist. But then later on, he turns into a rocket scientist somehow, and not just like a rocket scientist, like the rocket scientist that they needed to make the Apollo moon landing happen. It's very weird. Yeah, they're talking about the spear of destiny, and they're all looking at it, and that's the biggest thing that Indiana Jones and his friend Phoebe Waller-Bridge's father. I don't remember what his name was. But he was in Captain America, the First Avenger. He was the Red Skull's assistant, and then he turns into that computer in the second Captain America. I can't remember his name. He's a pretty good actor. He's doing very good. He does very good. Oh, cool. We got somebody in the chat. Basil Shaw was her father, played by Toby James. All right. Thank you, dude. You're a lifesaver. Yeah. I actually really like the chemistry between young Indiana Jones or de-aged Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, and Basil Shaw. I thought they worked pretty well together because he was like more of the in the field kind of archaeologist, and he was like used to all the stuff like jumping around and dodging bullets, and then he was more of the academic, more of the studying kind of archaeologist. I thought that worked very well together. But also they after this scene, it seems like the spear of destiny thing was just to get us to the I'm blanking on the name of the thing. Let me look at the Antikythera. I think that's how you say it. It seemed like that was just to get us there, because after that you don't hear anything about the spear of destiny. You hear it's a fake, and then it's not like, where's the real one? We got to go look for it. They just kind of drop it and take half of the Antikythera. And that's just kind of where they leave it. They like blow up the train with a bunch of artifacts on it. And that's the end of the good stuff. And that's the good stuff. That's like quotes on it. Oh. Because after this, you see him wake up alone in an apartment, and he's like shirtless. They're clearly trying to like belittle him. And like, oh, look at how old he is. I mean, to be honest, he's actually pretty swole for an 80-year-old. Like, I was joking, and I said that for an 80-year-old, he's built like a 60-year-old. Let's see. In a story about finding God, voodoo, aliens, and time travel, I do think ending it with two people hugging in a small, messy apartment was wholesome. Um, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but to undo it to this degree, like to make his wife divorce him, and at the end she's like, "Oh, I heard you're back," but it I don't know, the threads are not lined up together, if that makes sense. I think the ending of um, the Crystal Skull, where they get married, and it's a very small wedding, very nice, family oriented. You have his son there. Say what you want about the rest of the movie, but that's a good ending. It's a happy ending. Yeah. So the in in 2008 they had Shia LaBeouf be the because he was coming off of Transformers 1, maybe 2. They were ready for him to be the next big star, so they were setting him up as the successor. So they just had to kill him so that Phoebe Waller-Bridge could take that mantle and be the next successor. But maybe in another 10 to 15 years they'll decide to do another Indiana Jones, and they'll kill her off screen, and anyway, and set up a different person to take over. I'm just joking. Anyway, um, but yeah, so they clearly are not starting off very good. They're showing him like they're trying to make him look as bad as possible. He's getting divorced. Uh, he had something on his fridge. Might have been another divorce paper or something from the army saying his son died in Vietnam. I couldn't get a good look at it. Uh, and then he's drinking alcohol at 8 in the morning and yelling at kids for playing music too loud. And it's not quite what I want from for a hero. It would be one thing if that's how you start out and then you grow into something else, but they kind of keep that in their back pocket. They're constantly bringing up how old he is. All right, let me see what else he said. I think a slightly improved ending would be to continue after the hug scene, showing Indy put the dial in a glass case in his office. Indy notices the dial has moved slightly since he came back, and his assistant says someone is there to see him, followed by the sound of a motorcycle outside, revealing Elena went back in time and saved him. Well, the Antikythera can't go back in time. It can only go back to that one point, right? So I don't know how you could make it work. I mean, you can make it work by just not doing it. You could say, "Oh, he's off somewhere, or he's doing his own, wants to make his own name in archaeology, or I don't know, something." All right, one second. I'm gonna turn my fan down. All right, hopefully that is better. Um, yeah, and then Indy's at university and he's teaching, And like this is the guy that found the Ark of the Covenant. He's the guy who went to India and fought voodooists. This is the guy that found the Holy Grail. This is like the most famous archaeologist in this world. And all of his students couldn't be less interested. They are so bored sitting in his classroom. They don't listen to anything he says. It's I this is actually reminding me of uh Into the Spider-Verse, where you have Peter B. Parker and he's just kind of a screw up at everything. And he gets a little better at the end. But it kind of feels like you're just punching him to punch him, like you don't like him, not like you're trying to give him things to overcome. But then that's where you meet Helena, who is just so smart. She's smarter than everybody else. She knows everything that he's asking a question about. And you finally see a little bit of joy in him. And he's like, oh, thank goodness somebody paid attention. But that person is there to trick him. Because so she's in his classroom and then she starts talking. And then after class, she follows him to a bar and then starts talking to him, but doesn't tell him she was in his class. It's kind of strange. And then in the bar, she tricks him into showing her where the Antikythera is. And while she makes him all right, this is getting a little confusing. She's making Indy show her where it is. And there's a CIA operative working with those bad guys from Germany. Because they want the thing and they know that she's going to find it or something. Let me see. I think they could have written it to where Helena stays behind and devotes the rest of her life to making sure that Mutt's death is averted, similar to Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know how you would do that though. Like, do you just stop Vietnam from happening? I mean, there's a pretty easy way to stop Vietnam from happening. Sorry, history nerd coming out, but the leader of the Viet Cong was trying to meet with Woodrow Wilson at it was during his like last term. I'm trying to remember what year, but he wouldn't meet with him because he didn't like him. So like that'd be the easiest way to stop Vietnam from happening and thus save him. Right. I mean, I guess you just write like, no one ever kill this person, and you just keep teaching that. Like, this is the sacred law. You can never kill anyone with this name. But like, so at the end, they give what Indy should be saying to Helena. You know, this is somebody that's worked his entire life to preserve history. I mean, we see in The Last Crusade how he's like, what, 15, 17, something like that. And he's trying to make sure that the cross from the conquistador doesn't just get sold at a private auction, that it goes to a museum. It's someone that's dedicated his entire life to preserving history. And you think he's just going to risk I mean, the entirety of history from 200 something BC onward. You think he's going to risk all of that for his own selfish needs? It's insanity. And then you give what he should be saying to Helena, saying, "Oh no, you're going to ruin history. Even your corpse being here will throw the entirety of time out of whack." And he's just like, "Nah, it'll be good. It's fine. I'm just let me die here." And oh man. Let me look at my notes real quick. Yeah, I made notes about what I didn't like about this movie. Oh yeah, so back to chronological order. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge tricks him into showing him where he hid the Antikythera in his artifact room, and then the CIA and bad guys from Germany go to his office and kill 2 other professors, and then start shooting at him and Helena, who steals the Antikythera, and she runs out and locks him in there with people that are trying to kill him. She's trying to kill him and got 2 other people killed. And I don't know if she knew that people were hunting after her, but whether it was purposeful or just indirectly, it's because of her that these people die. And she leaves another in hang on, let's see. If you've seen Ninja Turtles 3, the turtles have the same moment where they randomly want to stay in feudal China because oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, at least that was like built up. Like they're like, wow, this is nice. We don't have to hide. We're loved here. They they love us for who we are. We're actually doing good here. But home is home. And then some of them are just like, no, let's stay. As opposed to man. Let me see, where are we at? So yeah, she actively tries to get him killed and runs off with the thing. And then Indy's worried that the police are going to try and frame him for the murder or something, because they on the news they say that they want him. I think that they just wanted him in for questioning is what they were saying, because that makes logical sense. He called the police and notified them of a murder. He had a bloody handprint on the phone. His handprints were on one of the victims. It was in his office that it was happening. Obviously, you'd want to talk to him, see what he knows. Let me see what else he said. Except the time travel rules in that movie, where the 4 of them have to be the exact same weight as the 4 tiny Asian dudes who are switched with them, which just doesn't add up. I don't remember the weight thing. I remember it had to be the same amount of people. Otherwise, the 2 of them would swap spots. Like each one would pick one to stay in the other's timeline. But it has been a while since I've seen it. Uh, let me get out of that. Yeah. So now he's trying to track down Helena. Um, so one of his friends from the first movie helps him. He just takes him to the airport and he gets on a plane, no problem. Flies to. Let me think. Um, I don't remember. He flies to somewhere. I think it might have been in Spain or something like that, where she's trying to sell the antic theorem, but later on she's like caring so much about it. The, the character of Helena makes no sense. Just keep that in mind, because she either is a loving daughter who cares so much about um, uh, cares so much about her father and his legacy, and wants to be an archaeologist. And then there's also her trying to like, greed is the only thing that motivates her. Money is what makes her talk. Um, money and self-preservation. And then there's also this weird thing where she just flirts with everyone and everyone's in love with her. It's very weird. It's very much like a self-insert kind of deal. Um, she actually reminds me very much of like Ray, who can do anything she wants, but where Ray is an action, like she has a desire to try and do good, or what she's like perceiving as good, no matter if it's like something that's going to end up being bad. But Helena is just like she's like an evil Mary Sue. But the movie's trying to tell us to like her, but they keep showing her do like bad things. Oh, let me see what else you said. I feel it was a missed opportunity to not bring back Charlie, the dean who stepped down for him in the previous movie. I feel like he deserved to be in the story, and the actor is still alive. I mean, yeah, that would be a really good addition. um, I think he's probably better off for not being in this movie. um, but yeah, like there's no one character with Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. There's no like one thing that defines her. She's just a little bit of everything, whatever the plot requires her to be. Like one scene, Matt Mickelson shows up, so he takes the Antikythera and they're running trying out of this big like casino thing, trying to not get shot and trying to get the Antikythera back. And she's like, "You're a grave robber," but and he's like, "No, I preserved these artifacts." She's like, don't let your self-righteousness save you," or something. But she's doing worse than that. All right, he went out and got artifacts and preserved them so that the Nazis didn't destroy them, because that was a thing that actually happened. They destroyed a lot of artifacts. Whenever they would conquer a country or a city or whatever, they would take their valuables and just shove them in like caves and stuff because they had so much of it. So in all likelihood, a lot of these artifacts would have gotten destroyed, whether by bombings, whether by the Nazis just taking them and not caring or actively working to destroy them. Like, it wasn't just book burnings that they did. They actively destroyed artifacts that they just didn't like. So he literally went out and saved pieces of history so that they wouldn't be destroyed by the war. She's going out getting these artifacts and selling them on the black market. But somehow she's standing on her high horse saying, "Oh, you were a grave robber. You know, you were a bad person. You're a whatever." But she's she's doing much worse than him. And there's no throwback of that from Indy. Uh there's no mention of that in the movie. It this is not a very good movie. um so yeah, Mads Mikkelsen ends up getting away with the Antikythera, and the CIA lady's mad at him for uh blowing off the president for an award he is supposed to get for making the moon landing happen. Now, keep in mind, like 10 years ago, he was an archaeologist, like dedicated his whole life to be an archaeologist, and somehow he's turned his whole life around in less than like 5 years, turns himself into a doctored scientist, and then becomes the best of those to make rockets. Wait, was he supposed to lose an eye? I'm a little confused. I might have missed something. But it, yeah. So he's riding the plane or the helicopter. He's getting helicoptered out because he kind of started a gang war in whatever country they're in, and he's getting helicoptered out, and the CIA lady is really mad at him and just shoots her, and is like, "Oh, here's my German name because I'm a bad guy from Germany." It's supposed to be like a big reveal or something. Um, let me think. So after that, um, Indy, Helena, and Short Round 2.0, who looks like he looks like Dustin from Stranger Things in season 1, but more diverse. Like that's exactly what he looks like. In George Lucas's Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, Indy's is still alive in the 90s, now missing an eye. Weirdly, the movie lines up with him living in New York, but doesn't address that. Oh. Okay. I did not know that. um, I've never seen the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Is that any good, by the way? Because I saw it on uh, Disney. They were trying to promote all their Indiana Jones stuff, but I'd never heard of it before. Yeah, so Helena, Indy, and Short Round 2.0, the shorter, rounder, and betterer, they decide to go look. So they're going back to the ship that the Antikythera half was found at, because they think that it's going to. It has the map to lead to the second half of it. Harrison Ford guest stars in one episode as Indy with a beard, and it's quite entertaining as a whole. It's really a fun show. Okay, I might check it out. I can pretty much guarantee it's better than this. Yeah, so they go and meet one of Indy's old friends. I don't remember which one he is in, but he's gonna take a boat out. He's gonna take his boat out and let them go dive, and they do that, and everyone's amazed at Helena because she can do magic tricks and stuff, and she's flirting with the dudes that are on the boat helping him. I don't know the name of the job they do. Indy is also slightly senile and acts like it's a Big Mac stuck in a mailbox. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Antonio Banderas' death felt really unnecessary, I think, is what you're saying. Yeah, it was completely unnecessary, especially with the way that they solved it. Like, if she would have spoken up like 5 seconds earlier, he wouldn't have died. The same things would have happened, only they would have had somebody else escape with them. And that's another person that dies because of her actions or inactions in this case. But at least with this death, you have Indy yell at her and say, "My friend just died. Stop celebrating." That was really bad, because she was like, "Oh my goodness, yay, we got away," and she was like, "It's like you just got somebody killed, or you just let somebody die in front of you, and a kid for that matter." But the more I'm talking about this movie, the more angry I am at it. I was thinking this is probably like a 4 out of 10. Now I'm more like a 3, maybe like a 2.9. Antonio Banderas has charisma and would have added a lot to the rest of the film if he would have stuck around. Yeah, I mean, from what I know, he's a pretty good actor. And it would be nice for an indie send-off movie to have like a greatest hits kind of thing, where he's like, he gets to see all the people that he's made friends with along the way, and they help him on this last adventure. But instead, they're every time they do that, they try and, I don't know, subvert it in some way. See, oh yeah, So yeah, they go down to the ship and they find it, and Indy gets attacked by eels, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge takes the map thing and goes up and leaves him to get like eaten by eels. And then after a while, she's like, "Oh, I guess I'll save him," and goes back down to save him. And this is like a character that they want to take over the mantle, quote unquote. They want to be the next hero. They want us to like her so much, and she's just abandoning him. Like, she's always playing the goddaughter card at him, like throughout the entire movie. But like that's a two-way street. That's a full relationship that you're supposed to have. And anytime she's not using it against him, she's abandoning him, trying to get him killed. Yeah, and somehow the Nazis find them on the boat. I don't know if they followed them, like, or something. But yeah, they get aboard the ship and they kill all the crew, and then they have those four, and they kill Antonio Banderas for no reason. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge blows up the thing because she finds a stick of dynamite. And they're getting away, and they set the map on fire because they read it and tell the Nazis where to go to find where the other half of it is. But it's she tells them exactly where to go to find it. Like, it's in a riddle, and she's like deducing what the riddle is supposed to mean. She's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's complicated. They won't figure out where the thing is that I just told them exactly where to go." And then they end up leaving and going in a different direction than what they said because they burned the map, or they burned the directions, because it's a wax tablet and it's like wax and wood. So they burned the wax off, and there's a gold insignia saying where the real thing is. It's also very odd that they're so okay with just burning a relic. But yeah, so they do that and find the real map, and they go in the other direction. So the Nazis just follow them instead of going where they told them to go. I think part of what feels off is that Indiana Jones movies in concept are supposed to feel like a standalone anthologies. Yet after Temple, the movies became overly connected. That is a pretty good point. I think for the most part, the original three, the trilogy, I think that stands. I think each one stands pretty well on its own. And then Crystal Skull, they kind of do a bunch of callbacks to the others, especially like Raiders, because they're bringing back Marianne. Yeah. Excuse me. I am yawning like crazy. Yeah, the bad guys follow them to the place that they were going, and they kidnap the kid. But Indiana Jones is like, "Don't worry, they won't hurt him. They'll just get information from him," and they just accept it and go on their adventure anyway. And then they go into this big cave, and then they find a secret entrance because the sun is shining in a specific spot, so they know that it's an empty spot. And they're climbing, and then they remind you that Indiana Jones is old because he's like, I have screws in this knee, and this one's replaced, and my shoulders are bad, and he goes on like a 3-minute rant about all the parts of him that are old. But after that, then they're just walking, and they go. there's a bridge, and they just go across the bridge. It's like rope and wood, and it's just like 5 feet over a river, like a raging river. It's like I don't know that I would trust it, but they're just like da 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 da, and start stomping on it, going across. And, and the bad guys are following behind them. They end up killing the guy that's trying to like close the park that it's at. And they go into the cave, and they're like, "Hey, look at that spot. I guess that's where they went." And they follow them, and then they have like 5 guys, and one of them's like a 300-pound, 6'5" kind of guy, and he's handcuffed to the kid, and they're all on the bridge at the same time. But after all the other guys get off and him and the kid are on, then that's when it breaks, and they get swept under the water. And the kid handcuffs him to a grate, and that's the last you see of him. So he died. And then the kid starts crawling. So the kid can't swim, but Antonio Banderas says he just tells him how to swim, and now he knows how to swim. So he swims out of there and then climbs up on stuff and meets back up with all of them later. Yeah, then Indiana Jones and Helena are in this cave of insects, and she turns on the flashlight, and she starts screaming. And then Indiana Jones runs after her, and he's screaming. He's like, get him all off me, get him off me. It's like somebody forgot the intro to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the only thing he's afraid of is snakes. But they do make a callback to that with the eels. They're like, snake or eels look like snakes. And he's like, no, they don't. Which that was kind of funny. That's not a bad moment, but a good moment does not cover up the mess that this movie is. Oh man. Yeah, apparently Indiana Jones is now afraid of insects, and he's afraid of everything, I guess. Oh, and he's old. Don't forget that. And they're in this room with a bunch of gas that's coming up, and trying to figure out what to do. And then he sees this pool in the middle. He's like, wait a minute. Shoot, what's his name? The Greek guy. What? Archimedes? There we go. Yeah. That's what I'm going with. Archimedes loves water displacement. So let's all get in this pool. And he starts putting the things in. And he finds the actual door, which I was surprised that he got to do that. Like that's showing some good Indiana Jones skills. It's like a good moment right after a bad moment. It is what it is. This movie is not very good. Ooh. Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard that or not. I did though, so I apologize. So yeah, the pool opens up from the bottom, and they slide down, and then they find Archimedes' tomb in the other half of the thing. But guess what? The bad guys are there now. And then, so they take that. The bad guys take the other half of the Antikythera and they put it together. And then the kid jumps down and attacks one of them, one of the bad guys. Then they start having a shootout, and Helena and the kid get away. And then that's when Indy gets shot, and then Helena and the kid they run out of the cave, and they and the Nazis decide to drag Indiana Jones dying. They decide to drag him all the way to their van and take him back in time for reasons. Like he's bleeding out in the van, which stops in like 5 minutes. After the plane takes flight, he stops bleeding out for some reason. I don't know why. Perhaps because it was reshot or something. And that's probably the reason. Or they just forgot. Yeah, so they take him in the van to the airport. And Helena and the kid follow him on a bike. And she tells the kid that's never flown before, but talks to pilots to go start the plane. And he starts a plane as the bad guys are. They put on their uniforms, their bad guy from Germany uniforms, and start taking off. And then the kid follows in his plane after Helena starts her bike and goes and does the scene from Toy Story 2. The scene in the airport from Toy Story 2. How Woody uses his thing and gets around the tire and goes up into the airplane. It's exactly what she does. They're using Toy Story 2 material for this movie. Man. So then she's in the plane and hiding. But Indiana Jones is sitting there bleeding. He's still technically bleeding out, even though he's not. He's not. Because the script says he can't bleed out. But he has a literal bullet wound in there. And he's like looking at things moving on the ground. And he's like, wait a minute. Archimedes didn't know about continental drift. It hadn't been observed yet. You're going to go to the wrong place. And Matt, as they keep getting closer to this is your thing that they're supposed to get closer to. That's their big plan. That's how they're going to go back to World War II. And that's how they're going to make themselves win, is they're going to go through there and change things. They're going to kill Hitler in 1939 or 36 or something like that. Either 9 or 6. But he's getting closer. This is his goal. This is what he's been dreaming of for however long since World War II, like 15 years, 20 years, something like that. It's right in his reach to get. He's this close. My fingers are very close when I'm saying that. He's so close to his goal. This is what he's wanted. Like, this is what he's wanted more than anything. This is what he changed career paths for. He changed career paths so that the U.S. government would help him get closer to this. And he's getting closer, and then he starts. He's like getting upset, visibly upset. He's like about to cry. He's like, "Abort! Abort! I can't do this!" And he's like, "It's too late. We're getting pulled in." And he's like, "Ah!" Starts screaming. How does that make for a competent villain? Like, all he's done is just follow other people. That's it. That's all he's done. He followed them to each place that it was going to be. And now at the moment of his triumph, the thing that's supposed to make us fear the villain, is that too much to ask? To see his evil side, he's like crying. Now, don't get me wrong, Mads Mikkelsen is acting really hard. He's doing his best, but there's no material to work with. How are you supposed to make that make sense? How are you supposed to make that intimidating, formidable? You can't. It's another emotional bad guy from Lucasfilm, from a really good actor. So then they go through and and they're like, "Oh, good, we're here. Here's Sicily, 1939." And then they start going down to get a better view. And there's all these Roman ships, and they're like, "Oh no, we're at the Battle of what do you call it? Where Archimedes is." And then the the Romans are using their equipment to take down the ship. And then the Nazis decide to start shooting the the Romans. They're not even thinking about the consequences. Like, how many generations worth of people am I going to kill by shooting this one person? How much of time am I messing up by doing this? But they don't. Um and but this time travel is you always do what happens because you can see at the beginning or at the sorry, you start over. At Archimedes' tomb, there's a picture of a phoenix, and it has propellers. So it always happens. I think I said that right. So the Nazis kill a bunch of the Romans until so the Romans bring down the warship. But then they leave. I don't know why though. Like, if they won that battle, but then they just leave. I don't know. Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen dies like screaming and crying, and he's like, "I shouldn't be here." He's like the opposite of Greta Thunberg. Instead of "you shouldn't be here," or instead of I think it's the same. I think they say the same thing. Say, "I cannot be here. I should not be here." yeah, he dies screaming like a baby. He's like, "No, take us home. Why can't you take us home?" And then like the engines are busted. They've been hit by a bunch of spears and stuff. But yeah, so Indiana Jones has been bleeding out this whole time. He and Phoebe Waller-Bridge parachute out of the thing right before it crashes. Um, so in the plane that the kid takes off in, he followed him through the fissure, and there's a pilot in there that was just asleep the whole time, and he wakes up, and then the kid makes him land the plane so that they can pick up Helena and Indy. But they land, and then uh, Indy's talking to Archimedes, and he's like, "I'm a big fan. I want to stay here with you. I'm glad we could help you win the battle. I'm glad I got to see it with my own eyes." Uh, and that's where you get this big thing where that should not be what Indy's saying. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is saying what he should say, which is, we can't stay here. We're messing up time. We could really mess it up. We've probably done damage already. It. He's like, no, it'll be all right. And he's like, he still has this giant hole in his shoulder that's bleeding. And he's like, just leave me here. Just let me die. Oh, man. And then somehow she punches him so hard, he gets knocked out. Like one punch from Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she takes him back to New York. And he wakes up not in a hospital or anything, but like in his own apartment. Don't want to do that. And so he sits up. And he's like, "You should have left me there. Left me there to die." She's like, "I can't do that. You would have messed up history." And then I don't know, they have a little conversation, and it ends up that his Egyptian friend and his ex-wife, his Egyptian friend from earlier, and his ex-wife come over, and she brings him some groceries, and then they kind of make up, I think. But that's where she kind of puts the divorce on him, saying it's his fault. She's like, "I heard you were back." Like it, I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. It sounded very very modern. So then they do that thing from Raiders, and it's like, "Where does it hurt?" And he's like, touching places, like kissing her elbow or whatever. They kind of make up, and the Phoebe Waller-Bridge, shorter, rounder, the Egyptian guy that I can't remember his name, and his kids all go out for ice cream. And that's how it ends. It literally undid the ending of Crystal Skull, so it could try and do it again, but worse. Like, it's pretty bad when you're worse than what's like almost universally agreed as the worst of the franchise. All right. Now that I've talked it out, I think it's a solid 2 as a movie. I think that's a good nice number. It's there were good moments in it. There was some enjoyment of it. And I don't know, maybe a 2 sounds too harsh. There were fleeting moments of joy in this, but it was mostly just a bag of garbage and like a Mary Sue telling you that you have to eat it, and it's a 4-star or 5-star meal thing. It's like it just isn't. You've messed this up. You've filmed this like 6 times. You've done reshoots a dozen times. You've done how many rewrites by how many different writers. It's just a big mess. And this is the last thing Lucasfilm had to offer to eke out any sort of profits. And it just did not work. Yeah, this movie is awful. I've changed my mind. I thought it was okay. I was thinking like maybe like I don't know, watch it on on TV on a rerun because they're clearly gonna need to license this out to make a few more bucks. But I don't even think you should do that. If it comes on the TV, change the channel. Maybe go see the first 30 minutes and then ask for a refund or something. Yeah, not very good. All right. Well, I think I'm done talking about Indiana Jones. I went a lot longer than I thought. I thought I was gonna go for. Thought I was gonna go for like maybe 20 or 30 minutes. No, an hour and some change. All right. Well, I will catch you guys next time. Peace. All right. I'm ending. Yeah, peace. Bye.